Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to a brand new episode of Boss Babes. I'm your host, Brittany Baldi, and we are back at it again with a brand new lifestyle sports podcast episode. And I could not be more thrilled. We have with me my friend, Miss Anne Marie Leitao, and she was a former Boston Bruins Ice Girl. She is also one of the founders of a nonprofit called EmpowerHER. I cannot wait for you guys to learn all about her nonprofit, growing up right in Attleboro, Massachusetts, and so much more. Before we get into that, you guys know that I am obsessed with Manscaped's products. I have some directly behind me. The holiday season is upon us, and they just released some brand new products. They have a shampoo and conditioner combo and body wash. So if you guys need some stocking stuffers, if you need some products for your boyfriend, your dad, your uncle, your brother, maybe even yourself, hit up Manscaped because they have fabulous products at a great price and lots of awesome grooming items. Again, Manscaped is fabulous. And here we go. We are going to jump right into it with our fabulous lady. She is the woman of the hour. Anne Marie, how are you?
Hi, Brittany. I'm so great. So happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm so excited. So I love the fact that you are sort of bi-coastal right now. So Anne Marie is currently out in California, but she's from New England. So we are going to be hearing all about her traveling, the fact that she lives out on the West Coast, but she's from the East Coast. And I'm obsessed with that because you guys know that I also do a ton of traveling. Before we get into any of that, Anne Marie, if you had a superpower, what would it be and why?
Definitely to time travel. I feel like we always want to know what is ahead or go back and change something. So that would definitely be my superpower. And I mean, not necessarily like always a good idea to be able to see what you want ahead of time. However, I would make a whole lot of decisions if I could know what was happening in front of me.
I think that's an excellent answer. So being able to time travel, whether that be, I guess, going back in time or going into the future, that is awesome. A lot of people always answer when I ask that. They say, I would love to fly or be able to teleport. But I guess time traveling is pretty similar in the sense of being able to do something quick and fast, and we all need a superpower. What is your most memorable positive moment in 2021? We here on the Boss Babes Lifestyle Sports Podcast love talking about positive moments. So why not break the ice with these two questions?
Such a great break the ice question. Well, 2020 was so difficult that there's been a lot of really great moments in 2021. But I would have to say we did the Today Show for Empower Her back in May, and that was such a milestone moment and was so special and so impactful. So in 2021, definitely the Today Show.
Yes, I cannot wait to talk all about the Today Show when we get into talking all about the nonprofit. Congratulations again on reaching those fabulous milestones with Empower Her and being able to go nationally. Like you guys started off local, I think, in the New England area. You are now out in the West Coast and slowly growing. I know that you guys plan on hopefully eventually being global. So congratulations with the baby steps you guys are taking to get there. Let's hop right on into it. So you grew up in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. Again, we already talked about it, but you're currently living out in Los Angeles, California. And you went to Umass Amherst, which is also in the Massachusetts area. So let's chat a little bit about Attleboro, Massachusetts. What does Boston mean to you?
Yes. So growing up in North Attleboro was great. I mean, I would be lying if I said that, once you kind of get out of high school and you're ready to move on, I haven't really ever looked back. My family's still in North Attleboro, but I love it there. All my best friends are still there, or at least a handful of them. And then after I finished high school in North Attleboro, I went to UMass Amherst. UMass Amherst was amazing. I was in a sorority there, Kappa Kappa Gamma. I met a whole bunch of really amazing and great friends. And a lot of the friends that I met then at that time have led me into where I am now with EmpowerHER and living in LA and really everything in between. So after graduating from Umass Amherst, I lived in Boston for 5 years, and I loved that too. But, I'm from North Attleboro. I went to school at Umass Amherst. I vacationed in the summers on Cape Cod, and I was living in Boston, and I was just really ready for a change. And I didn't know exactly what it would be, but I just kind of made the leap. I moved to Los Angeles. I'd never even been to LA before. I just had this gut feeling that this was what was next, especially to help empower her and just to help grow personally and professionally. And so I got here 3 years ago, and Massachusetts is always home, but I'm definitely loving LA.
I love that you use that term, or like the slogan, Massachusetts will always be home. And I guess that kind of hits home for me too, because for a lot of my Boss Babes fanatics that are currently listening to this fabulous podcast episode, I myself do a ton of traveling, and I myself also lived out in LA for a number of years. And my boyfriend, Ryan, started off his baseball career in California. So I love that the three of us all sort of have some ties to both the West Coast and the East Coast. Let's talk a little bit about your childhood. What was it like growing up with your family as a young kid, as a teenager in Massachusetts? Describe that family dynamic.
Yeah. So, and explaining this, in a really raw sense, and in a way this introduces Empower Her a bit. North Attleboro was great. It was a great family town. I lost my mom in 2002 when I was 10 years old. My brother was 14. And my dad was great. He just did the best that he could. At that time, he had a really big job. And after we lost my mom, he left that job to be a teacher at North Attleboro school system. So that way he could spend more time with my brother and I. And I know that was a really difficult decision, but it's one that you make for your family, right? But with that being said, it really helped us even more establish our family into North Attleboro, given that my dad was a teacher, and given that I had, been growing up there. We lost my mom, and there was so much community support in North Attleboro, which was amazing. Family support and community support. Without going too deep into it, I had never met another young girl whose mom had passed away, which was really where EmpowerHER started to take off, because it's meant to, create community and reduce isolation and everything. But at that time in North Attleboro, I mean, it was great. And all of my best friends whose weddings I'm in now are all from North Attleboro, and all young girls that I grew up with, and other kids and classmates that I grew up with. So I'm so glad that I had that experience growing up, because it was, it's suburban Massachusetts, and it's comfortable, and people work hard and go to school and play sports, and really everything that society tells you, go to college and do all these great things. And so when you have that mother loss experience, it's easy to lose track of that. And I think being in that type of community helped me stay focused, and helped lead me to this point now.
And I know that you briefly spoke about your mom and her passing. You were only 10 years old. We will be touching upon that shortly. Guys, please stay with us. You are now listening to my friend, Miss Anne-Marie Leitao. She is one of the founders of the West Coast division of EmpowerHER. It's a nonprofit. You are going to be learning all about that nonprofit and why Miss Anne-Marie wanted to get involved with it. She was also a former Boston Bruins Ice Girl. So you are going to learn from her what it was like to audition. Why did she even want to be a Boston Bruins Ice Girl? And maybe she's going to even give you guys some advice if you yourselves want to be a professional cheerleader or get involved with a professional sports team in any capacity at some point. Please stay with us. Prior to losing your mom at the age of 10, do you have any fond memories that you remember with your mom, with your dad? I know you said you loved going to the Cape, so let's talk about some of those happy memories from your childhood.
Definitely. And I think so much of who I am now is because I had my mom for those 10 years. Even though 10 does seem really young, I think a lot of the foundation of who you are is, with those early memories, and the Cape is just so special. My family has a house there. We have a shared family house there. So I would go there growing up. So the Cape was always in my head, this happy place from when I was younger, when my mom was around, to even after, when she wasn't here anymore, and you're going through life without that. I always associated Cape Cod with this really kind of safe haven in a way. And I think it's just because I knew that there was always family there for me. It was away from everything at that time. And so even now, to this day, I spend the summers on Cape Cod, and every time it feels the same. Every time I appreciate it more and more, because I do have so many of those beautiful memories there with my mom. And, you hold on to that, especially as you get older and time passes. I'm 30. It's been 20 years since my mom passed away, but I still feel this deep connection to that. And I feel that through Cape Cod. I feel that through Boston. I actually later on bought my mom's home in Boston just as a good thing to do, but also in a sentimental way to keep the house and the family. So there are all these little aspects of pieces of my mom in Massachusetts that I carry with me here as well, obviously majorly through EmpowerHER, but just personally. And my dad as well is so supportive of all the things. So I think having that, it lives in your heart in a way.
And I love that you mentioned that you have such a strong draw to Cape Cod. For those of you guys that are listening, that might be either A, from a different state, or B, maybe from another country and don't know exactly what Cape Cod is. It essentially is the part of Massachusetts. If you look at the United States map and you look at the state of Massachusetts, it's like the little hook in the corner surrounded by all of the water. That is up where the Cape and the islands are. And as Miss Anne Marie just mentioned, it's a place that people enjoy going to, especially in the summertime. They have fabulous beaches, beachside restaurants. It's kind of like, I like to look at it as a staycation. For a while, my parents, for a number of years, had a little beach cottage there out in Dennisport, and I was obsessed with it. It has such a cool little vibe to it. So, Anne Marie, I think that is awesome that you have such fond memories from there. And I want to talk about sports as a kid. Of course, this is a lifestyle sports podcast, so we have to discuss sports a little bit. Did you play any sports as a kid? And how did you stay active, or how do you like to stay active currently?
Yes, definitely. And I think back then EmpowerHER wasn't around. EmpowerHER, helping young girls through mother loss wasn't around then. And where do you channel this energy? And just given the environment of North Attleboro, which is a big sports town, I was a cheerleader. And then after my mom passed away, I switched to field hockey. I did lacrosse and track. So I was always very involved in sports. I think that it's just should be a part of everyone's life in some way, shape, or form. I think it's a great way to put energy somewhere, especially when you might be going through hardships, or you want to work toward a goal, or teamwork. I mean, just getting to know your teammates and creating a community in any sense, especially in sports when it's, physically exhausting and physically challenging, I think is so important just to well-being in general. So I did do field hockey was kind of my favorite sport, especially throughout high school, but I was always a runner. And when I went to Umass, sports so much there, I was in the sorority, so it was a little bit different. So I laid off quite a bit. But then after I graduated from college, I was like, okay, it's definitely time to tune back into this. How can I do this as, a 22-year-old woman at that time? As much as I love to stay active, the yoga classes don't always quite cut it. How can I take this to another level? So I was really busy at the time working with EmpowerHER. I had another job, but I'm the type, I bite off way more than I can chew, but I like it that way because it just always keeps me busy, staying active. So that's when I tried out for the Bruins Ice Girls. And then I also simultaneously was training for the Boston Marathon. So both incredible experiences, majorly out of the comfort zone, but were absolutely crucial toward my health and just my identity even.
And I know you just lightly spoke about the Boston Marathon. How was the whole process of, I guess, one, deciding why you wanted to run the Boston Marathon, and two, preparation for that?
Yeah. So living in Boston, I mean, the Boston Marathon is non-biased opinion, is the most coveted marathon in the world. And so I had some friends and my aunt did it. And so I'll never forget, I think it was 2016, watching from the sidelines. And this was after the marathon bombing had happened. And, it was just so courageous. You're watching these people fighting to cross the finish line, whether they're just doing it to run or they're running for charity. I mean, my mind was blown. I had run some half marathons and 5Ks and things like that. And I just thought to myself, you know what, it's time. As much as this is pushing me out of the comfort zone, usually that's where the best things happen, where really beautiful things can happen outside the comfort zone. I applied to run for another charity. EmpowerHER wasn't quite as established at the time. So I ran for a charity called Dream Big, which is also near and dear to me. Dream Big supports young girls to have access to sports in inner city communities. And so I had always been a big believer in sports as it was, given my situation and given, field hockey and lacrosse and staying active and how important I thought that was. So I ran for Dream Big. I fundraised around 10 grand for them in the spring of 2017. And I mean, training was brutal just because it was cold, like it was just a cold winter. If you remember way back 2017, like it snowed constantly. And then you have to make a decision. How do you train? Do you train in the snow? Do you, risk getting injured? It's so much more than just, training and running. It's like all of the things that are entailed with, getting your body ready for it's going to take a beating, what's going to be so difficult. But, just sticking to it and just making the decision and just showing up every day, showing up for yourself, showing up for Dream Big. And then when race day came along, of course, it was a million degrees. It was like 80 degrees in April because that's the weather in New England and that's the risk you take. We all have been training in such cold weather. So to run the race on such a hot day was very difficult, but we made it nonetheless. And that was the last marathon I've run, but who knows what the future holds.
I love that you kind of poke fun at the New England area weather. I mean, Anne-Marie could not be more spot on when she says, like, the weather here is sort of just all over the place. Like, it could have been hit or miss for that marathon for her that year because April could honestly still be winter time, or it could be spring, or in her case, it happened to be 80 degrees that day. So I like to say, for those people that are not from the New England area, at all times, guys, you can have a swimsuit, sunscreen, a winter coat, and like an ice scraper for your windshield and an umbrella at all times in your car. Doesn't matter what time of the year it is because you never know when you need to whip something out to use it. Am I right or am I right?
So right. So like watching the marathon that day for all the spectators was great because it was 80 degrees and all the Boston college students and all the spectators loved it. But for us, we were dying. But that's just what it is living in Massachusetts.
That's exactly what it is. And there's no way to prevent that weather from being sort of all over the place. Being a Boston Bruins Ice Girl, I want to talk all about being a Boston Bruins Ice Girl. How did you get involved and what made you want to be a Boston Bruins Ice Girl?
Yes. And it's so funny because just talking about these experiences in my 20s, how much of an impact they've had now here in LA, even though nobody else might necessarily see it, but just saying it's really impacted who I am and how I talk to people and just how I feel about Boston being home and how I represent the city. So I decided to try out for the Ice Girls completely randomly. I had that feeling right after I had graduated from Umass Amherst. I had always really liked hockey because I played field hockey, even though obviously it's a little bit different, but it was really one of the only sports that I felt like I could really tune in and understand. And I had ice skated as a kid a bit, and I just kind of went out on a whim and tried out. I applied, I looked it up, and the timing was perfect. Timing is everything, and auditions were open. So I submitted a application, and they called me and invited me to try out. So I came to tryouts, and I was so nervous because I had never really had a tryout like that in a long time. I mean, I when I was in my sorority, you have to rush and go through that whole process, and it can be intimidating, but you just have to show up as your best self. So that's what I did. And there was a lot of physical aspects of the try. Like there was like push-up boot camp contests and someone observing you to, make sure that you had the right athletic abilities. But I got through it. And my favorite part about it was meeting the other girls along the way, along during tryouts, when you're meeting the other girls and you're meeting just the staff in general. And it was an incredible community. I mean, from the start, as intimidating and as difficult tryouts can be, and tryouts I think lasted a few days. By the time I got that letter when I got accepted, I was so excited because you invest in it. You're going into it and you're am I enough? Am I going to be able to do this? But you just show up as your best self. And now I actually have so many close friends that I was on the team with. I'm in one of their weddings next year. The captain, my friend Steph, was the Ice Girls captain for a few years. We actually ended up living together. Now we also, I like got her a job and we've worked together before, and I'm in her wedding and she's one of my very best friends, amongst many others too. So I think just the friendships, of course, is what you value the most, and the experience as a whole, doing 2 seasons and really getting behind the scenes, from a promotional standpoint and a media standpoint and other little opportunities that going into Ice Girls, I wasn't totally sure about, what does this actually consist of? But I got to go on the Jumbotron and announce promotional giveaways and work with the newscasters there. And all of that, I think, has majorly played into how I've even run EmpowerHER and how I've, made certain decisions personally here based off of all of the kind of behind the scenes, behind the curtain that I got at Ice Girls. So it was an amazing experience that I'm grateful for.
That is so awesome that some of your top memories are simply just you making those connections and you being involved with the community of Boston and making all those lifetime long friends that you were just discussing. And let's talk a little bit more about this audition process. I know that you said that it was kind of a little bit physical. You had to answer some questions. You probably had to maybe talk and meet with some of the staff. What was the most memorable, aside from meeting the girls, of course, because you just discussed that part of it? What was the most memorable about those auditions? Was it physically being out on the ice? Did you have to ice skate? Was it doing those push-ups? Was it being a part of the competitions?
And thinking back, I mean, what really stands out to me was the interviews that we had with the Bruins staff. You looked up to them, and they're representing the Bruins and they're working so hard. And some of them were closer to our age in our 20s. Some were a little bit older, but you want to make this great impression. And I would say definitely the one-on-one personal interviews with them, they really wanted to get to know you. It wasn't just a competition about, looks or fitness or any of that. It was having well-rounded people there and making sure that you could represent the Boston Bruins kind of grit and that attitude and check all of those boxes, because you are representing in every way this organization, whether one of our tasks was handing out the flyers when people were walking in, or we were meeting with Bob Kraft to give him a soda water. Like literally it could be anything that you could be doing. And so I think really overall the Bruins staff getting to take the time to know you, and you want to make the best impression because you have 3 minutes with these people to potentially have 4 seasons on this team, or however many seasons you want to do. So that stuck out the most. The physical aspect of it I thought was awesome. I think having kind of blood, sweat, and tears, being a little bit of an athlete with doing the marathon and getting to bring that in and having like the push-up contest, it's hard, but we can do hard things, and that is part of this, and it's welcoming that. And I think having accomplished that just makes it all that much more, exciting and proud to be on the team. So I really did appreciate the physical part of it. There was like full blown push-up contests going on. So, and it was intense.
Do you have any advice to those that may be listening, whether it's a teenager that happens to be listening to this podcast, or maybe a parent that is like, you know what? I'm wondering, how exactly do I get my child or teenager, or if I'm in college, how exactly would I get involved with a professional sports team, either being a promo model, cheerleader, being a part of the brand ambassador team? What advice can you give to people to keep that good image, to get out there and to audition for something like being a Bruins Ice Girl or a cheerleader?
Yeah, definitely don't wait. If you have the thought of doing it, start now, audition now. And the reason why is because I had a few friends on the Ice Girls that went on to be Patriots cheerleaders, and it took them, 4 more years to get to do that as well. So I think starting right away is most important. Don't wait to, oh, I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to cut my hair, or I want to change, or just go into it. Be yourself is the first thing. The second thing is to not have too many expectations right away, because you are doing this for yourself. And with internships, especially on sports teams, and I went to the business school at Umass Amherst, and I did see this in the Eisenberg School, is that a lot of kids are interning and trying to get in, and it might not always pay right away, or it might not always be exactly what you want right away, but that's okay. That's part of it, because you're building the future for yourself for the long term, and you never know where you're going to end up. You could end up as playing for another team, or in New York, or here in LA. You have no idea what your life could become, as long as you continue to have that open mind. So I would definitely say start right away. Of course, make the connections. If you know someone who knows someone who's, don't be afraid to just make the ask, because when it comes time for people looking at names, even if they kind of recognize your name a tiny bit, you still have something over, some other people that you might be competing by, because you took that time to get to know somebody, or interpersonal skills. At the end of the day, cultivating relationships weighs the most. So start now, start young, start early. If you're 19 and you're thinking about it, just do it in whatever fashion that might be. If it's not right away and you're just trying to maybe get into some modeling or something like that, or your industry is, then just chip away at it, because it'll all come back and make full circle later on.
That is some excellent tips and advice. So for my Boss Babes fanatics that are currently listening to this Lifestyle Sports Podcast episode with Miss Anne Marie, she's basically saying, just get out, just go do it. Don't wait to lose weight. Don't wait to have to cut your hair or make your perfect headshot be perfect. Just get out, just do it, make those connections, have fun, because even if you're just interning at the beginning at your local sports station, or whether you're trying to be a cheerleader, just little small baby steps can lead to you potentially being the head of marketing down the road for the Boston Bruins or the Celtics, or living out on the West Coast like Anne Marie is right now. So I love those tips and advice. You guys are now listening to Anne Marie Leitao. She is one of the nonprofit founders of EmpowerHER, and we are going to be learning all about that nonprofit shortly. You guys are listening to her talk all about growing up right in New England in the Massachusetts area. She talked very highly about her childhood with her mom and dad, and vacationing at Cape Cod, and all of the fun things that New Englanders love to enjoy in the Boston area, like running the Boston Marathon and getting involved with sports. But we are going to talk about a sad turning point that happened in Anne Marie's life. So at the age of 10, you lost your mom to a brain tumor, and I just want to hear from you. Again, you can give as little or as much detail as you would like. Explain that experience. What was that like, being a young girl and having something like that happen to you?
Yeah, and thank you for asking. And I think one of the most important things around all of this is, even though it is a hard conversation and it can be uncomfortable, starting with that, we can have these hard conversations. And similar to just even what I was saying with sports, it's hard, but you just have to do it, because nothing will change if you don't. And so that's why I'm so open about my story, and that's why I'm so passionate about EmpowerHER. So my mom was a lover of life, and we had a beautiful family, and very humble, hardworking. My brother was 14 at the time when we lost my mom. I was 10, but it was 3 months earlier that my mom came home, and she had gone to the doctors because something was going on. She was having trouble standing up straight and didn't have the best balance. And in the beginning, we thought maybe it was just some sort of, weird kind of phase, but unfortunately, it turned out to be something, much deeper and detrimental that would change our lives forever. So she went to Sturdy Memorial Hospital ultimately, which is in Attleboro, when she was having some of these issues with dizziness and balance. And they said that, this is something greater. And, we need to send you to one of the Boston hospitals. So she got an MRI, and it was found that she had a terrible brain tumor called glioblastoma, and it was stage 4. And that is basically a death sentence when you get that diagnosis. And, months before, my mom was, beautiful and loving and having fun and active and very healthy and all of those things. So it just goes to show how quickly life can change on you. We weren't any different or did anything different. My mom's friends described her as, she never smoked, she never drank, and she never hung out with anybody who did. Like that was my mom. She was very pure. She was a saint. And she was all about health and all about active. And that's probably why I'm been so active and healthy and everything. So she got this diagnosis, and it was just 3 months of hell because it went downhill very, very quickly. And so at that time, I did have a lot of support from friends and teachers. I had my fourth grade teacher actually had me write out a journal. So every day that my mom was sick, I would write in this journal. And I eventually later on am going to do something with this journal because it's pretty incredible looking back at what this 10-year-old mind watching her mom die is really going through. But I mean, during those 3 months, you're just swimming. I mean, you're just trying to keep your head above water. And my dad is so incredible. And my mom has 5 sisters, or she's one of 5 girls. I'm sorry, she's 4 sisters. And they were at our house every day. I had all 4 grandparents, and they were at our house every day. So you just lean in on this family and friend and community support. And then when my mom did pass away, I feel like it was like the last day of like my life that I remember. It's like a piece of you dies in a way. So it feels like my last sense of normalcy was literally like over 20 years ago, which is really crazy to say sometimes because, you just keep going. You keep putting one foot in front of the other. But the fact that this one experience has now shaped my life in so many different ways, it's something that I see every day. It's something I wake up and think about. It's, you want to call your mom. Your mom's not here. It's these other milestone moments. Like, she would be so proud of all of this stuff that I'm doing. Granted, wouldn't have EmpowerHER if she was still here, but she would be so proud of all of it because that was very much my mom. Very pure. She left this earth kicking and screaming. All she wanted was her children, Charlie and I, to, thrive and be happy and be okay. So she, in particular, has a sister who, my auntie Mandy, who I'm very, very close to. And my auntie Mandy always said, she would especially look out for me. And my aunt Mandy has carried out that promise beyond. She has been there every single step of the way for me throughout my whole life, and Charlie as well. So as I said, having that family support. And other than that, it's just this secret that I lived with in a way, because after she passed away, ages 11 up until college, you just have to still go through life. And my dad ended up marrying my stepmom, my amazing stepmom, who has, I'm very close with, who has played a huge role in our lives. But at the end of the day, you don't have your mom, and you feel like you have this crutch that you're carrying around and nobody sees it. It feels like you're, missing something, and nobody sees that. And so much to the point where around town, you see your friends and they're going shopping and back to school shopping and all of these things that your mom's supposed to take you to do. And, I didn't have that. And I think too, channeling into sports and still showing up every day, showing up for field hockey, showing up for the birthday party. And I think those things is what kept me on track, even though to everybody else, they don't seem like a big deal. But even now, when I go to my friends' weddings and I see from North Attleboro, I see all of these like moms, and I'm like thanking them. I'm like, thank you. Like, thank you for taking me and picking me up and taking me to the birthday party. Thank you for dropping me off at field hockey practice. And they're always like, no, we wish we did more for you. We felt terrible about your situation. But, I look at it like it wasn't a big deal for you, but as an adult now, it meant everything for me. So I think, all things considered, I think things happen for a reason. And as difficult as it was losing my mom, and is every day, grief is a journey, but just staying true to you and, taking time for you and the things that you love is the best way, I think, to, keep my mom's memory alive and keep me going and keep me on the right track as well.
Well, Anne-Marie, I just want to first off thank you for getting so open, so vulnerable, being able to share such a powerful, emotionally, what could be sad story, especially for somebody that might be listening to this podcast episode and they just recently might have lost somebody to a similar situation. So I love having people be able to open up about these situations. And as you mentioned, it never gets easy. Here you are 20 years down the road and you're never going to get over the pain of losing your mom. But I do like the fact that you also mentioned the silver lining is you might not have been moved out to California. You might not be helping out other women in situations like this. So I truly believe the silver lining is that you are going to help out others that need that help. So let's discuss EmpowerHER. We already kind of get the idea of why you got involved, but I know you met up with a woman named Kara. I don't know if you guys met up in Massachusetts, but let's just first start off by talking a little bit more about community, because I feel like community is a huge part about this episode. You keep mentioning family, community, helping others out, and I think that's such a beautiful theme for this podcast episode. So, how exactly did you meet Kara? Was it in Massachusetts? And tell people what exactly this nonprofit is all about and who do you help?
So I met Kara because at college at Umass Amherst, there were two girls in my sorority who had just lost their moms. And they knew Kara through a family friend. And long story short, we just got connected. And when I met Kara, she had two young kids and she was living in Scituate, and she had this idea, and it was like a light bulb went off. I was like, oh my God. First off, there's somebody else whose mom has passed away. I was 10, Kara was 9 and lost her mom to breast cancer, even though, she's a few years older than me. We just related to this loss so much. And also that she wanted to do something about it and wanted to start this nonprofit. She had nonprofit experience at Susan G. Komen. And even though she had two young kids, Kara is an absolute beast. She wanted to do this, and it was a friends and family movement, really meaning that we just started telling our friends and family, and Kara specifically in the Scituate area just told her friends and family, do you trust me with your money? And I will do this. I will serve young girls who experience this loss. So EmpowerHER started out with a Mother's Day retreat where we would just take girls away on Mother's Day. And so it started off with 7 or 8 girls over Mother's Day weekend. We took them to the Boston Harbor Hotel, and it was incredible even then. And it just quickly grew, and word got out of somebody else in the Massachusetts area had just lost their wife, or, oh, I know of a young girl whose mom has passed away. It just organically happened that way. And then EmpowerHER ended up turning into a 2-part program. So events for the girls throughout the year, like the Mother's Day retreat, to remind girls that they're not alone on Mother's Day, as well as we do a beach bash and back to school shopping and a couple of other events throughout the year in the Massachusetts area. That has since changed since the pandemic, but just when we originally started. And then the mentorship program, which has always been probably our most impactful, because an older woman who has experienced mother loss is a mentor to a young girl who has experienced mother loss. So I am a mentor to my mentee, Molly. She's 12 years old. She experienced the loss of her mom. I was actually their family babysitter growing up, which is totally crazy and unbelievable how there's synchronicities and how the universe works. But EmpowerHER's mentorship program has now since grown out of Massachusetts. We have mentor matches across the whole country. So it's really amazing because I think it's creating that community. And I'm so happy that it started in Massachusetts, because now we've grown so much nationally and soon globally. The headquarters is still in Massachusetts. And, that's where it all originated from.
I love hearing how you sort of picked up the pieces. And as you speak about these spiritual synchronicities where you were just happened to be in college, you met Kara, and you guys kind of just sparked the conversation of you guys both losing your moms and wanting to create this nonprofit and help people. It sounds like eventually it's going to be global. So I want to discuss a little bit about how you guys are on the path to getting more people involved. I know that you guys also have the MLB involved as well. So before we even talk about the Today Show, let's discuss the Major League Baseball involvement. And if Ryan and I can help in any way, shape, or form, girl, we have your back.
I love it. I love it. And you mentioned community support earlier. And this is just, I think, the importance of having community. And for me, it's been on so many levels. It's been in little North Attleboro, or it's been with Boston Bruins and running the marathon, and now even in LA. So really how that all began was end of 2018. EmpowerHER was really all over Massachusetts, and we were on Fox and doing all this wonderful media. I still had my Boston office job on top of doing EmpowerHER. So I was a workaholic, doing a million things at once, and which isn't always a good thing because I probably overexhausted myself, but that's okay. So I knew at that time that I needed a change, and I knew that EmpowerHER, in order for it to grow really big, I thought leaving Massachusetts would be really the best the best way to do that, just to expand our community and cover more ground. So I booked a one-way. I went to Los Angeles. My auntie Mandy, my mom's sister, flew me out, and I'd never been to LA before. I had some friends here, but I just kind of went for it. I started telling everybody about EmpowerHER. I mean, like I signed up at the gym with the few friends that I had here. I really tried to just put myself out there and talk to their networks. And next thing I knew, we were having a fundraiser at this incredible woman. Her name is Jade Mills, and she's LA's top 100. She's an incredible real estate agent, and she served as a mentor to EmpowerHER in a lot of ways, because her and her daughter really believed in us. And the best part is that they didn't even experience mother loss. Her daughter did experience a loss of her father. Her daughter's name is Lexi. And so, we were so understanding of that. And we just connected on this level of loss and wanting to make a change. And so we had an event in Jade's backyard 2 years ago in October of 2019, and it was extremely successful. And just storytelled. We said, we started this thing in Massachusetts, and, we want to serve girls here in California because there's nobody else doing this. There's nothing for young girls whose moms have passed away. And we've seen the success of this in Massachusetts. Trust us to do that here. And people listened and they donated, and we raised $200K to be able to start up a chapter. And it's tough because anytime you do something like this, you have to do it responsibly and safely, and it takes funding. And EmpowerHER is entirely volunteer driven with a very lean staff, very, very lean staff, being Kara, myself, and just a couple of others. And at that time, I wasn't even working at EmpowerHER full time, but I did end up leaving my job just after that event at Jade Mills's, and working for EmpowerHER full time, because we could really start to sense that, this is going to take off more and more. So much to the point that, we did Fox LA, and we even got asked to go on the Kobe Bryant Memorial, because Kobe Bryant, the helicopter that he was on, there were some moms who were unfortunately killed in that helicopter that left behind young girls. So Kara went on to the memorial, and she shared about EmpowerHER, and it was truly life-changing, and it felt like a dream come true in a lot of ways, because we can finally bring these services here to Southern California, and just continue to get the word out, and keep spreading this message. And then the pandemic hit and everything changed. We had so many big plans for 2020. That's life, and we had to completely zig and zag from the original plan that we were on, but we did go virtual. And because we went virtual, we were able to serve girls everywhere around the country and global. And we were able to reach other ambassadors and mentors in other parts of the country. So there was a blessing in disguise with the pandemic. There was a silver lining. We were able to really, really expand and get to know more women, get to find more girls. With that said, we had a Luminaria event, which happened in May, and that's over Mother's Day, and that is a fundraising event. So we had these Luminaria events where donors would purchase bags. They were $25 bags, and they would write someone that they in honor of or in memory of for Mother's Day. And so we had these Luminaria bags displayed across 10 different cities. And so one of the cities was San Francisco. And again, because the pandemic pushed us into this virtual place, we started getting to meet more people. One of them was the team at San Francisco Giants. Somebody got us in touch with San Francisco Giants, and one of our ambassadors up there said, can we have a Luminaria event here at the San Francisco Giants Stadium? So on Mother's Day, the San Francisco Giants Stadium was so beautifully lit with all of these bags in loved one or in memory of both men and women, but a lot of women in honor of Mother's Day. And it was truly incredible because to have this journey, to get out of Massachusetts, come to Southern California. Now we're having these fundraisers across the country. It was also very hard because it's still pandemic times. So we had to work through that as well. But we were able to tap into the MLB community, and they were just so gracious, and they listened, and they wanted to support. And that was the San Francisco Giants. Amanda Kluber, which is the wife of Corey Kluber for the Yankees, was just amazing, and had a Luminaria event down in Florida because she was living there at one point. And then also Jenna Mathis, who's so near and dear. It's the wife of Jeff Mathis. Both of them experienced mother loss, and they are so special to the EmpowerHER community. And they've done so much to spread the word and donate. And Jenna is the mentor to an 18-year-old girl out of Texas Texas. So they have a long distance mentorship, but they're just the best. And they got to meet back in May when we had one of those Luminaria events down in Austin. They got to meet for the first time, and there were definitely tears. So that's kind of the background of how we got involved with the MLB and how we are excited to continue that partnership because they've just been so incredibly supportive.
Love how you guys are getting involved in so many different ways, whether it be with the MLB, getting TV exposure, because any way, shape, or form that you can get your message out there, like, for example, coming on my podcast today, is excellent ways of being able to not only spread your message, but have people learn about what exactly EmpowerHER is, which leads to my next question. If there is a young lady out there that needs your assistance or needs those resources, how do they get in touch with you? Is there a specific website? Do they slide in your DMs? Like, how exactly does the process work? And then afterwards, how can people directly donate or volunteer their time to help out with your nonprofit?
Yes. So great question. So EmpowerHER serves girls up to age 24. So if you are under the age of 24, you can go to www.empoweringher, EmpowerIngher.org, and enroll there and enroll that way. And you can be anywhere to enroll. You can be out of the United States. The only thing is that we don't have events in person yet in other areas of the world, but we're currently working really hard on London, maybe Germany at some point. It's all on the horizon. The goal is to serve girls everywhere. But if you are in the United States, we did just have 11 in-person events. So if you don't live near an event, we still have the virtual aspect as well. So there's something for everyone. And then if you are over the age of 24, but you still want to be involved, you can absolutely be involved as a mentor, as a leader. You can help out with events as a volunteer. However, you don't have to have mother loss if you want to be involved. So just FYI, if you're not a young girl with mother loss and you just like the mission, we have a lot of supporters who don't have mother loss, which I think is a very important part of this conversation, which is a lot of what I saw, in North Attleboro, teachers and folks around you who are there for you, even though they don't necessarily know what it's like to have lost their mother. So you can also go to empoweringher.org, or you can go to EmpowerHER's Instagram is at EmpoweringHER, or you can also DM me at my first full name, Anne Marie Leitao. So I can share more with you that way. If you want to volunteer, we are, as I mentioned, having in-person events for girls across 11 cities. So if you're near one of those 11 cities, definitely you can volunteer there. And then, we're still trying to branch off all of that. So there's a conversation no matter what capacity you want to volunteer, whether it be more, smaller and not as much, or if you really want to help us make a bang, we definitely need it. And, just to keep spreading the word and to find girls as well, because it can be hard finding girls with mother loss. A lot of times they hear about us, but with being virtual, it's the power of social media and, the Today Show and all of these other media that we've been able to do that has allowed us to find more girls and serve more girls. So
I love all this. I think it is absolutely fabulous that you women are coming together and doing such great things for the community. What are your immediate plans for the future for EmpowerHER? Obviously, things are still on the virtual side, which I guess, like you mentioned, kind of works to your benefit because you can connect with people out in different countries and different states like myself, or when you're back in Massachusetts, we can probably connect in person. So we have those opportunities of both doing things virtually and in person. Do you have any events coming up where either people can attend or that people might be able to volunteer for with the holidays coming up? And if so, how do they get involved with that?
Yes. And great question, because we just had 11 events for young girls, which was, just girls events in those 11, technically 10 cities, but we did 2 in Boston since we're much bigger there. But so we're so excited because we're just starting to bring back events now and in-person events now. I'm a gala girl. I love having fundraisers and hearing stories. So that was one thing that we were really hurting with the pandemic, is we missed that so much. But one thing that you can do right now, and anybody listening across the country, is you can actually host your own we call it a pop-up party. So you can have your own event. And this is also really at any capacity. We've had really small pop-up parties at a local restaurant, and, they raise some dollars and ask their friends and family to really come into a room and, share this bold, beautiful thing that they're doing to try and help empower her and spread the message. So that's one way to do it. As of now, we don't have any giant fundraiser or gala in the works yet. However, come May, we will definitely have those Luminaria events again. And I'm sure there's one coming to some near your city, whoever, wherever in the country you might be, because we did have 10 kind of scattered across the country. So there's a million different ways that you can get involved in at Luminaria. And Luminaria is a fundraiser, and it's like the San Francisco Giants event was so beautiful. It was close to the public because it was still such pandemic times, but you could look at all the bags lit up on camera virtually, or you could still get involved as a volunteer in a lot of other ways. So definitely also, as we, kind of cross our fingers, are bringing back these giant in-person events. There seems to be a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. So if you follow EmpowerHER on Instagram, we share all of that with you. If you want to get more involved and really dive in kind of sooner than later, you can shoot me a DM. I'm pretty good with my DMs. You can do it that way, or like I said, EmpowerHER's website, empoweringher.org.
Well, and I loved freaking learning all about the nonprofit EmpowerHER. I loved hearing about you spending your time with the Boston Bruins, becoming an ice girl, growing up in North Attleboro. And again, I want to thank you for being so open and vulnerable, being able to talk about the loss of your mom, because I know for damn sure you are helping out tons of other both young women and I would assume young men being able to go out and seek help and look for that community when they need to. Before we wrap up this podcast episode, I want to thank all of you guys for listening to my BosBabes Lifestyle Sports podcast. We love having on some of your favorite professional athletes, their significant others, awesome people like Miss Anne Marie, and of course, some of your reality TV competitors that you enjoy hearing all about their crazy escapades. We drop about 4 new episodes a month, and you guys can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, and of course, iHeartRadio Media app. But we are not done with the show yet. We have a little bit of time left with Miss Anne Marie. What are your plans for the holidays? Let's just talk about that. Are you going to be spending the holidays on the West Coast? Are you going back to Boston? What are you doing?
So I feel like I make game time decisions constantly, always like so last minute, no pun intended, game time. But I don't really know right now if I'm going back for Thanksgiving. I had wanted to go back for Thanksgiving. I have been traveling so much because I probably, like so many of us, we have had so many events rescheduled and changed. And I travel a lot for EmpowerHER now. I just came back from New York. I was there because we were in the New York City Marathon. We had 6 amazing runners who run and trained and fundraised and represented EmpowerHER. So I was in New York to cheer them on. So I actually just got back from New York last night. I'm here in LA now, so I can't fathom leaving again, which usually my family's pretty understanding about. But knowing me, last minute, I might say, hey, I'm going to sneak back and go maybe surprise my family. I'll definitely go back for Christmas time, though. My family does a big, giant Christmas party every year. It's my dad's family, my stepmom's family, my mom's family. We all just come together at our house in North Attleboro under one roof. And it's just the best thing ever because it's, like I said, having, that family support and giving my mom's family and my dad's and my stepmom's, having everyone together is just so special to me. So we'll see if I make it back for Thanksgiving. But as of now, I'm going to try to stay put in LA for as long as possible. But we'll see. We'll see how much I actually stick to that.
Well, safe travels. I hope you enjoy your time going back to the East Coast. I know you're going to make it back out there. I'm planning on spending part of the holidays. It's kind of hard having a boyfriend that's from down south because we've learned over the last couple of years to split up the holidays. So we are planning to do Thanksgiving with my mom and dad up in the Boston area, but then we lately have been doing Christmas down south. So it's kind of cool to have the best of both worlds. It sounds like you're going to do the same with maybe do Thanksgiving out on the West Coast and enjoy bundling up a little bit for the Christmas holiday on the East Coast. Bring your winter hat and gloves, girl. It's already starting to get cold, so I'm just going to full on warn you.
I bet. No, thank you. It's always like a shock every time. Even though I know it's going to be freezing, I'm always like, oh my God, it's so cold. It's so dramatic.
I know, it's true. Like, I'm actually going back home this upcoming weekend, and the first thing on my to-do list, and I'm not even just saying it because I have you on here, is to switch over my summer and spring clothing and whip out the winter coats. So Saturday, that's my 8-hour project, is bringing out the winter coats.
I get it.
It's happening. But positive pop. Do you have a special mantra, a song that gets you hyped up? Or it sounds like you're pretty spiritual. Is there like a Bible verse or some meditation that you like to do? What is your positive pop?
Yes, I am very, very spiritual. I have had to tap into spirituality to get through a lot of things in life, especially around my mother loss experience. So my I would say my biggest thing would be meditation, which is like not necessarily a song or doesn't sound super exciting. But when I take a deep breath and when I like close my eyes and just breathe for 2 seconds, sometimes things can fall into place. So I try to meditate as much as I can. I am so like bad at it because it's so hard when my brain is racing to just like go sit down in a corner and shut your eyes and pretend that all the stress isn't happening, which is basically what meditation feels like. But it works. It does work, especially when you have a lot on your plate, or, you know, if you're stressed out, or, you know, life is just feels like, you know, you're being defeated by life sometimes because there's so much always happening, social media and places to be, and taking a moment for yourself. Meditation is definitely my mantra.
That is some excellent positive pop. For those of you guys that are listening and want to just calm your mind, take a deep breath, meditation is fabulous, whether you're doing it for just 2 minutes, like Anne Marie is talking about. When you're caught up in the moment, you need to just close your eyes, go into a little corner and deep breathe. Or what I like to do is I love to listen to guided meditations at night, and I try to do them at least a couple times a week. So there's multiple ways of doing it. So all the power to you guys. If you ever need a quick moment to take a breath and breathe and refocus, meditation is awesome. So Anne Marie, thank you for sharing that you like to meditate. And before we wrap up the show, one last time, shout out EmpowerHER's social media and where people can find all that information as far as donating and volunteering. And then, of course, we want to know what your social media is so that way people can follow you, of course. And I want to get you back on this podcast again, maybe sometime this spring. I don't like just having my guests on here once. I like having them on here multiple times. My podcast is kind of like an Audible reality TV show where I like to keep up with my special guest lives. So this is not going to be your last time, girl. You're coming on here again, maybe multiple times.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Brittany. And you're just the best. And thank you for giving women like myself and others, you know, time and the opportunity to just speak on behalf of all of these important conversations. So you're the best. Thank you so much. So EmpowerHER is the website is www.empoweringher.org. There are some other EmpowerHER type charities and organizations out there, but this one's very specific. EmpowerHER with the ing on her when you go to the website empoweringher.org. And then our social media, all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, is at EmpoweringHER. And then for me personally, you know, I'm always open toward talking about EmpowerHER or anything in any, you know, grief space. So I'm very active on social media. So you can feel free to DM me on my Instagram is at Anne Marie Leitao. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter, just not as much. Instagram is really my main platform for all things EmpowerHER and any real communication. At Anne Marie Leitao, it's ANNMARIELEITAO is where you can find me on Instagram.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much. Happy holiday season to you. And again, please, guys, go follow their nonprofit. Help out in any way, shape, or form that you can, whether that be volunteering, donating. And again, please follow Miss Anne Marie on her own social media because she shares lots of great information up there. Use her as a resource, use her as a tool, or if you just want to look at her fun, cute photos, I mean, why not? That's what social media is for, right?
Right? Exactly. Why not?
Well, thank you again so much. I enjoyed having you on here. And thank you, Boss Babes fanatics, for listening to another great episode of the Boss Babes Lifestyle Sports Podcast.
Thank you, Brittany.